As you know, I am both a loser and a nerd. It's something I deal with every day, but I'm also damn proud of it. So when this episode of Monday Night Raw was done, I went back through it. That's right, I went back through it. Technically true, I started doing it halfway and then revisited the first half. Anyway, I counted the amount of times the phrase best wrestling match ever was said. And do you know what the total was? Well, I'm gonna tell you. 15. 15. Now, that doesn't sound like a bigger number as you would expect, but there were two things that I noticed. Obviously, one, that means they said it 5 times an hour, and given that we weren't talking about Randy Orton versus Edge for the entirety of those 60 minutes, that is nuts. But it's the frequency when they did say it. So they would go, oh, don't forget it's the greatest match ever. And then Samoa Joe go, what, the greatest match ever? Then Byron Saxton would chip in with like, what, the greatest match ever? It was like being swung over the head with a spade. Anyway, that's done. Let's put it to bed. I need to go to bed. I'm tired. Let's up those doubts. So as you know, all week long, WWE has been promoting a rematch between Charlotte, Flair and Asuka. I know how much that wound the internet up and we'll talk about it later, but I always love it when these two have a fight. I think they have great chemistry, and clearly so did everybody here because it was meant to be our first match on this episode, and instead we got something else. We even had ring announcements for the women's champion, but when it was time for her opponent to walk down the aisle, instead we got Sasha Banks and Bayley, and the commentators were so surprised at this, they acted like Elvis had risen from the grave and he had walked down to a wrestling ring, but instead they just wanted to yell a lot, and Asuka wanted to yell back. So we yelled. Charlotte then decided that she would like to get involved in the shouting, so she too made her presence known, and she was like, look Sasha Banks, look Bayley, you two are just garbage, and I know that you want to go to every show, but only I, the Queen, can do that. You don't have the stamina. I mean, all the shows are in the same building, Charlotte, and I take your point. After this, the Iconics also wanted to make a point, so they came out and they were like, look, nobody cares about any of your matches. The only match people care about is the one on Sunday that we're going to have at Backlash, because something terrible happened to their accents, and then there was just so much hatred in the ring, everybody started to have a big fight. Of course. And also, being that this was Raw, it magically turned into a 3-way tag team match because, you know, I know some kind of wizard just flew in and went, everybody, now you must have an official match. And I'm like, thank you, Wizard in the Sky. You just don't see that because we cut to the advert. And look, it was pretty decent. It was pretty fun. I think the Iconics are getting better every single week. But. You know how this ended? Asuka tapped out Billie Kay after she had locked in the Asuka lock. And also on top of that, I have no idea where Sasha Banks and Bayley went. They got taken out at one point and then they just vanished. Maybe they fell into a black hole. But to wrap this all up, I just don't get it. Why would you have a team that has a title match on Sunday, a tag team title match? Why would you have them lose? And surely now, if we're supposed to pretend that wrestling is a real sport, well, Charlotte and Asuka should now take the Iconics' place. But is that going to happen? Probably not, or maybe it will, who knows. And I know that their whole shtick is that they can annoy you in about 20 seconds on a microphone, so it doesn't really matter what they do. But also, ever talking about it, why would Charlotte and Asuka team up to begin with anyway? Forgetting the Wizard in the Sky, these two don't like each other, and that was proven because they kept having a big argument here and tagging each other in and tagging each other out, even though the other person didn't want them to tag in, tag out. And then, just to really kick me in my ass, Charlotte waylaid Asuka after this and was like, ha ha ha, you absolute dick. So now we're making Asuka look like a dork, and the best thing about her championship reign so far is that she hasn't looked like a dork. And have a guess what's going to happen later? That's right, she's going to look like a dork. That's why I'm taking my finger a pow, 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 and it's getting it down. Rey Mysterio was then doing more Skype interviews after this, but thankfully Rey Mysterio is the best babyface ever. Before we got here, Seth Rollins made his way to the ring because he wanted to sit at the commentary team and also have a chat with his foe. He told Byron Saxton to shoo. He's like, go, get out of here. And Rey Mysterio was so mad about this, he just went, Seth, you son of a bitch. All of this was to give us an update on his eye though, and thankfully the doctor said it's encouraging news, but he still has to avoid danger, which means he can't go anywhere near Johnny Gargano, because once again, he will pull keys out of his pants and stab somebody in the eye. Apparently he gets a kick at it. Rey was just so livid though, he went off on Rollins, including giving us the great line that when they do eventually have a match, he's not gonna save his 619 till the end. He's gonna write Seth's name on it and give it to him as soon as he can. I was like, right, you may as well have just looked into the camera and gone, wrestling's really fake, because if it was real, you would try and do the 619 in every match straight away, because you know how devastating it is. Not the most devastating move in all of sports entertainment, but it's still pretty devastating. Rollins was unperturbed by all of this and said, look, Ray, just bring you and your son Dominic to Raw next week and we can sort this out, but Mysterio's too smart and he knows what this guy is up to. And then from nowhere, Aleister Black just popped up from the abyss and he started to whip Seth Rollins' ass. Where was he? For some reason, that also meant it was then Aleister Black and his new friend Humberto Carrillo taking on Austin Theory and Murphy. But I tell you this, it was good. I mean, if you had decided to go to the loo during this, you probably would have missed it because I don't think it went more than 2.5 minutes, but I kind of like that because it ended with Aleister Black giving this really cool looking kick to Murphy as he stood on the top rope, and then he pinned him to the 1, 2, 3. So now if you take the past few weeks of Raw, Mr. Black is just on a roll, and a roll is what he needed. There was a bit of a weird post-match when Rollins then came out to the arena to Rey Mysterio's music, wearing a Rey Mysterio mask, and this surprised the good guys so much the three assholes started to beat them down. I didn't really get that because it made this win irrelevant. However, doesn't this make all the sense in the world? Aleister Black and Humberto, they need somebody else to take on 3 people so they can do a nice little 6-man tag. Hey ho, why not Rey Mysterio? I don't like this. We then had an interview that may as well have been conducted by the Riddler, because Charlie Caruso was chatting to Randy Orton, but Orton turned the tables on her and said, look, we've got the Peep Show coming up, and to the best of your knowledge, is there only meant to be 1 guest? And Charlie was like, well, yes, I suppose so. And then Randy's all like, well, maybe you're incorrect, we'll have to see. But Charlie couldn't figure it out. She's like, what does that mean, Randy? It obviously meant that he was going to interrupt it or he was going to do something. Come on, people, catch up. I mean, what did you think he meant? Do you think he meant, oh, I'm going to go off and have some toast and enjoy this from a chair, find some comfortable place and just see what these two do? Just don't get it. Doesn't make any sense. However, he did time this very well because the next segment was the Peep Show, and obviously Christian was talking to his best friend Edge, and with all that shenanigans out the way, it was flipping brilliant. The twist really came in the form how Christian was treating his best friend, because you thought they were all going to be lovey-dovey, give me a hug, oh, aren't we so brilliant together? But he wasn't. He was like, listen, Edge, I'm looking at you right now, and I don't think you're ready for this. You need to get ready. You need to light a fire under your ass. I think you're just blowing smoke. He went on to say that if it is the case, Edge needs to take his ass home. And the Rated R Superstar was like, whoa, pal, boy, calm the hell down. Do you know how hard this is for me? It has been 9 years since I had a straight wrestling match, so this is the equivalent of being put at the bottom of Mount Everest with no equipment and saying, why don't you climb the thing? Edge, if you ever get offered that, don't do it, you'll die. Christian carried on saying that this can't just be Edge's greatest hits, and he needs to find that thing deep down inside himself that's gonna bring him back to the top. Or remember, the one person that always supported him from day one, that being his mother. Pretty sure that Edge's mother passed away a few years ago, so this was emotion up the 2-9. Edge then did something with his eyes. I guess he gave the special wink, wink, nudge, nudge sign to Christian, and then Christian just turned around and went, oh, there it is, finally, Edge. You've come back to where I needed you to be. That was a little bit strange, but otherwise, my word, did this get me pumped for everything that's going on. Christian is also great. So it's exactly what Captain Charisma was trying to do. He was just trying to get Edge in the right headspace, and he felt like he achieved his goal. That's when Randy Orton appeared on the big screen, and he just stood there with his hands on his hips going, ha 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 ha. He didn't do that, but he should have done. It would have been quite maniacal. He did think all of this was pathetic though, and that's why at Backlash he is going to end the redemption of Edge and send him home to his wife and kids. Edge had had enough at this point and said no, that wasn't going to happen. And then he left as if he had something to do, like he had real mean intent. And yet we never saw these two again on the entire show, unless I fell asleep and missed something. But even still, like I just mentioned, all of this was fabu. Interview with MVP in the back next, and he was wearing a Shad Gaspard t-shirt, and I'm 99% sure you can actually buy this on Pro Wrestling Tees, and all the money is going to the Gaspard family to help out with obviously their tragic situation. So if you do have some extra coin and you'd like to throw it their way, I think that would be quite nice. Anyway, this was just so Bobby Lashley could appear from nowhere, appear from the depths, and put the full Nelson on R-Truth, who MVP had called a clown. And look, as a quick aside, I wouldn't mind. I think R-Truth is really entertaining, but if you want to turn him into serious truth, or something to the words to those effects, and put him with MVP and Lashley, I don't think it would be the worst idea. It was then time for more nonsense with the Viking Raiders and the Street Profits, and I know, I get this all the time on Twitter. Simon, these segments aren't doing very well in the ratings. don't have to care about the ratings. They are what they are. I love how committed these 4 guys are to these skits. This is getting up. It was a decathlon, although not one that you would be used to, because the first event was the 1600 meters, and obviously Montez Ford just smoked Ivar in that one. But then Eric came back in archery and beat Dawkins. What I enjoyed there is in the distance, you could still see Ivar trying to finish the race. It's the little things. The Profits took the lead with flip cupping, and then the Raiders evened it up with sword fighting, because Montez Ford just forfeited that one. He was like, I'm not getting involved with swords. They're really sharp. And then Dawkins pushed them forward even further when he won some hurdles. Ivar thought he had won because he had just crashed through all the hurdles, and I tell you, it's the right side of dumb. Eric then squashed Dawkins in street fighting, where Dawkins also fell into a kid's pool, and then everyone decided they should have a dance-off. Imagine that was in the Olympics. Yes, it kind of is. His choice of music here was sublime too, because Montez went with Heartbreak Kid, Shawn Michaels theme music, whereas Ivar, well, he went with Fandango song. They still lost even though the female judge thought Ivar looked cute. It's that running gag again. And then there was a turkey leg eating contest and some shot put, and a W went to each team. Ivar then somehow beat Ford in a pole vaulting contest, and nobody saw that coming. And of course, this meant they tied it up. It was 5-5, whatever it was. Basically, it was a draw. And call me a moron, call me a bald asshole, but maybe a great way to settle this would be a match in a wrestling ring. Probably a little far-fetched. Jokes aside, these guys have thrown themselves into this like me when the gyms reopen, and I just appreciate they went, let's take shame and hurl it out of the window. You get a lovely little round of applause. US title #1 contender next match, and there ain't nothing wrong with that. Apollo Crews is out first. He's just like, I'm so happy to be the champion and I'll take on anyone. And as it was going to be Kevin Owens versus Angel Gaza versus Andrade, Kevin Owens just picked his moment. He saw these two and he beat them up as they were making their entrance. I love KO. I like this match. Just getting it up. This didn't work out too well for Kev though, because obviously Andrade and Angel Gaza are best buddies, so they soon turned the tides on him and started to kick his ass for a little while, because they soon fell out over who should be getting the pin. And in that fracas, they managed to crash into Zelina Vega. She fell down and she had to be taken to the back. Who has to be taken out of matches, or who gets more accidentally hurt than Zelina Vega? She needs some kind of shield. It all made sense though, because it meant we got a straight wrestling match here and had a pretty entertaining finish, because Kevin Owens was able to get the stunner on Angel Gaza. He was about to become the #1 contender before Andrade drop kicked him right in the face, and he stole the pin like a damn Mother Hubbard. So that sets up Andrade versus Apollo Crews, which I don't mind seeing again. But then you can also do Angel Gaza versus Kevin Owens, and they've been feuding. And outside of that, you can now start the tease of Andrade versus Angel Gaza as well. That is ticking all my boxes, and you know how that makes me feel. And we've already started the tease for this, because in the back, Angel Gaza and Andrade were still arguing until Vega just walked up and she pointed at them. And they were so terrified they walked off. I enjoyed this. It was like a mum and two brothers, and she was like, I've had enough of your fighting. You two need to sort it out. Chat with Charlotte Flair afterwards, and she kind of acted here like she couldn't give two hoots that she had lost the NXT title. We should never do that. That is always the wrong direction to go, because otherwise, me as a fan, I'm going to go, well, why did you want to win it in the first place? Don't act like it's a toy. There's nothing there. Anyway, eventually Asuka danced her way into the picture, and Charlotte was like, do you ever take anything seriously, Asuka? And she went, yes. Slapped Charlotte right in the face. It was pretty good. Kurt Angle was our legend this week too, talking about the greatest wrestling match ever between Edge and Randy Orton, and he picked Edge. All right, Kurt, thanks. For some reason, we then learned that later on it was going to be MVP and Bobby Lashley taking on the Viking Raiders, and because of this, Eric and Ivar went and found Drew McIntyre and said, hey Drew, would you like to be a Viking? That is as weird as it sounds. Drew wasn't interested, but he did tell them to watch the VIP lounge next, because he had something on his mind. And he was correct, because next on the running order it was the VIP lounge, but it also means that is 2 talk shows on 1 episode of Raw, and you know what happens when that happens. Roll it. Yes, it's my own talk show, Simon Says, with this guy, and if you've seen it before, you know he's going to say something horrible. Go on. What have you got this week?
I love you.
Oh, that's lovely. I love you.
Flub off!
Asshole puppet. Asshole flipping puppet. Anyway, up. MVP was all ready to invite out his exclusive guest, Bobby Lashley, but yes, he did get Drew McIntyre instead, who just wanted to keep things nice and simple. How the hell can you be managing Bobby for a World Championship match when you won a grand total of 0 World Championships. And yes, that is a very good point. Also, I just want to make this point too. MVP here said that Bobby Lashley's full Nelson was, and I quote, the most devastating move in wrestling. I beg to differ with you, Mr. MVP. Compared him to Yoda, which was not a good comparison because we all know that Yoda controls everything and he would definitely manage Bobby Lashley to become the WWE Champion. And just as he was about to Claymore kick MVP's head off, Bobby Lashley once again appeared from nowhere behind him. He's like a ghost. It then just erupted into a big mess with everybody fighting and the Street Profits were out there and so were the Viking Raiders. And this is where things got a little bit interesting. Because it did turn into the match between MVP and Lashley and Eric and Ivar, and it was just absolute chaos. Because not only did you have Drew McIntyre out there, not only did you have the Street Profits out there, but halfway through we just cut to Lana, and we were like, Lana, how do you feel that you're not ringside for your husband's matches? She was like, oh, well, it's really upsetting and it devastates me, but it's okay because my Bobby, he's going to win the championship, and then 2020 will be the year of Lana. What? You wouldn't do this if you were watching the Super Bowl. You wouldn't cut from one of the quarterbacks to a chat with their wife in the middle of a game. And ultimately, this just led to Bobby Lashley sneaking up on Eric and giving him the full Nelson. And of course, that was that. So it did mean the Viking Raiders lost. And this just made me scratch my head because they've been on a right roll along with the Street Profits and all their goo-goo gaga they've been doing. Why didn't you put Ricochet and Cedric Alexander or Thorne and Vink or whatever the hell those two guys were called, who also just vanished from television? If you're not going to do anything with them, just have MVP and Bobby Lashley beat them. Now you kind of hurt the Viking Raiders, and that seems like a waste of time. So you tell me, because I don't get it, but I will do this, getting it down. Bobby then grabbed Ivar afterwards and put him in the full Nelson too, and even though everybody was pulling away, they couldn't break the hold, and that's just smart because it gets the move over. But Drew McIntyre knew how to break it. He ran across the ring, he Claymore kicked MVP, no he didn't, he Claymore kicked Bobby Lashley right in the face, and that kind of knocked him out, but he didn't. Because Bobby fell from the ring, and he just shook it off, and he looked at Drew like, you can't stop me. These two have done a very good job in getting me invested in that match. Quite excited about seeing it on Sunday. What are you going to do? It was then our main event, which in many ways was absolutely just awesome and amazing and brilliant and lit the fires. In other ways, made me wanted to shave my head. However, for the match itself, is getting it up. And that's because WWE let Asuka and Charlotte basically have a 30-minute main event on Raw. And imagine I had told you that 5 years ago, you would have punched me right in the face, as we've said before, because you would have thought I was a lying Larry. But here, I was a truthful Terry, and these two, I've already mentioned it, I'm mentioning it again, they're just so good together. Their chemistry is off the charts, and the way they reverse and counter moves is just as smooth as silk. And who doesn't like silk? But then after half an hour of action that I was really invested into, WWE just got their dice, they rolled it, and I guess they got number 2, and they're like, oh, we better do a distraction finish, because then outran Nia Jax. She was all kerfuffling on the apron, the referee, they couldn't have cared less. When Asuka turned around, she got big booted, so not even one of Charlotte's big moves, and Flair pinned the champion. I'm sorry, but that is a down. That's not even Charlotte's fault. I know people are freaking out about this, and I do understand that, but the reason it really gets me is, do you know why Drew McIntyre's run as WWE Champion is so good? Because he's confident, and he wins, and I haven't seen him get pinned on TV. We were doing the same with Asuka, but here, not only did Charlotte run over her at the start of the show, but she did it again at the end, and got a visual pinfall, but it just comes back to Asuka being a dork territory. She shouldn't be a dork. She should be a warrior that can crush fools like a piece of paper. I don't get it. I just don't get it. And now, surely we should be doing Charlotte versus Asuka at the pay-per-view because she beat the champ. Has to be a triple threat. I mean, that may still happen. You'll probably be on Twitter and WWE go, oh, we've made the champ. Just don't understand. I don't understand. It really irked me. I get it. I'm a wrestling nerd. I'm a wrestling geek. But all of this was so good. But then we had to go WWE on it, didn't we? Given that this was the go-home show for Backlash, though, it has got me more excited about the pay-per-view, but that's mostly for Bobby Lashley versus Drew McIntyre, but I guess that is one of the main events. It was confusing, though. My word, it was confusing. I just don't understand some of the booking decisions. However, we did get a 30-minute women's match to end the thing. We had all the nonsense with the Street Profits and the Viking Raiders. I think MVP and Bobby Lashley are great. So it's gonna get a nut, but I tell you, sometimes, like this, I'm doing it. They push my buttons. Ooh, I made my hand go weird. Now, don't forget to leave a comment below, and I already know what everyone's gonna be. Charlotte, 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 Charlotte. I know, I get it. We'll just move on and be happy pairs lying in a bucket of milk. I don't know what that means. Like the video, share the video, subscribe to WhatCulture Wrestling, then head over to WhatCulture.com and read yourself some articles using your eyes. Follow WhatCulture on Twitter, WhatCulture WWE. Stop moving and watch more videos here on WhatCulture Wrestling. My name is Simon from WhatCulture. Thank you very much for joining. You have all my love, you have all my support. Sound like April O'Neil in that Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle game on the NES. Nobody played that, you don't remember, that's what she used to say. She just go bleep, 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 and you talk to her on communications and she go, you have my support. You're like, April, now is not the time. How have we got here? Look, let's just finish it, I'll see you soon.